Okay, so I got the valley cover done. It is all buttoned up, got the new gasket in there, getting some things cleaned up before I put the intake back on. Well, you're gonna ask me, what intake? What are you talking about? Didn't you blow a hole in your other one? Well, I did, and I got a new one. Let's go take a look. After a lot of searching, a lot of little fiasco, I finally found myself a Hiram that was in stock. So the big issue with the Hirams, which is the intake that I wanted the long runner, I wanted pretty much all the features that it has based around that intake. They were out of stock everywhere. Brian Tooley was out, Tick was out, Texas Speed was out, you name it. Everybody was out of stock. Well, I was able to finally find one through a buddy. We made some things happen, and I got it here, and now it is time for the Hiram to go on. I cannot wait. I've been pumped for one of these. I've wanted one ever since I've seen them. I never really had a direct need for one. I never really spun the RPMs and stuff necessary for one. And to be honest, I still really don't. So if you look just specifically at the RPM and the type of usage that I have, a Trailblazer intake is probably better for me. So there's probably going to be an area of the curve that I'm underperforming with the Hiram. So I wanted to replace rather than repair when it comes to the Trailblazer intake. And I wanted something that I would only have to buy once. I wanted an intake that would work fine for me now, that would work adequately for me now, that would be able to grow with me as I go into either a bigger engine, a bigger turbo, more RPM, all of the above, you name it. I wanted an intake that would grow with me. And so the Hiram checked boxes, all of those things, and we're gonna slap this joker on. Looks like instead of using standard on intake gaskets, these guys use some little Freedom rings here. Gotta keep the Freedom sealed in. You know, after last weekend, when I blew the EGR port out of the intake and boost finally leveled off to a smooth 27 pounds, I realized that having Freedom leaks is not the way to win. Now, I don't think my boost leak was why I lost, but I can tell you that Freedom leak is not the way to win. So, I'm gonna make sure I try to get these all nice and sealed up in here, because I don't want any more boost leaks. I don't want any more Freedom leaks. I don't want any more excuses. I want to buy the right stuff, do it the best way I can, when possible, and chase a W. Getting nice and sealed up. Getting nice and sealed up. Sealed is that's a technical term, by the way. It is for something that's more than sealed. Sealed is just kind of what you say when you bolt it together and you think it's good. But sealed is when you bolt it together and you know it's good. Sealed. Freedom! Looking way better than the stock one did. Way better. One thing I'm concerned with this intake is that obviously it's a little bit taller than the factory one is. That's part of why it's called a Hiram. So I know that these things fit with the factory hood on my trucks in 99% of cases, but I'm sort of in that 1% where I'm a little bit worried about it. And that's because I have my engine slid forwards about 2 inches or so. So originally when I did the 4L80 swap, I didn't want to have to rebuild 2 different drive shafts since the 80E is a little bit longer than the 60E. So that was also going to change my 4-wheel drive shifter as well. So the thing that I did is I just put all that stuff in the factory spot. Basically, I located everything based off of the transmission crossmember and the transfer case. I put those things in the same place that they were with the 4L60, and then so that when the extra length of the 4L80 had to go forward, so that means the engine went forwards. Well, that worked out good for me because it didn't matter. It actually did a couple of things that made the engine easier to work on. It gave me more front weight over the front tires, which I was right in guessing that I would have problems trying to keep those things glued and working for me. So I gave myself more front bias that I needed in my case. I gave myself an easier engine to work on, and it had no other negative effects for me. But I'm wondering how close this intake is going to be. So I worked up a little bit of a trick to see if I can get this thing so that way I can see if it's closing. So I didn't really have a way of looking because I have both fender wells in. I can't see on top of the intake or anything. So instead, I'm gonna slap this guy right there, the highest point of the intake, and I'm gonna see if it transfers any grease to the top. All right, so let's see if I can do this one-handed. Get my hood prop out of here. All right, let's see if this thing fits. All right, get this over here. Oh man, oh, that's gonna be close. Okay, so far so good. I know it's very hard to see, but there's about an inch or so of room up there, maybe a little more than an inch, closer to 2. But the hood still has to go down, so let's see. Well, it's closed. Let's go pop it and see. Right, wish me luck. I'll say a small prayer that we don't have to cut my hood. I don't see any grease on there. It ain't clean under this hood, but it's not greasy. So that makes me feel pretty good. The only other place I was really concerned about is right up here where those throttle cable brackets and stuff are. But maybe we're in the clear here. Let's do another test fit up here just to see if there's something else that gets close. But I feel like if we were gonna get any, it would have been up there. Let's try again. All right, so she's closed. All right, test number 2. Nothing going. I think we got us a runner, boys. That joker fits, and I mean just fits, but that'll work. So it is in there like swimwear. Everything fits. It looks nice. It looks neat. Gonna do a little bit of wire sucking whenever I get to that point. But I basically just wanted to get this far tonight and make sure that the hood would fit, that the hood would close, that everything would line up. Everything looks good in that regard. If nothing else, this thing has definitely stepped up the underhood appearance of the truck. Of course, a lot of that stuff's just kind of dangling around while I'm working on it, but definitely looks way, way better than the old trusty bread box. As good as that is, that looks much, much more impressive. So, big surprise is finally my valve springs showed up. If you remember the last video, we had a bit of a fiasco with valve springs and valve seals and all that. So I got a hold of them, got them to send me another kit. I got my parts in from Motion, the throttle cable bracket and stuff. So I'm gonna get those things put on while Austin tackles the valve springs. And we're gonna try to fire this thing up tonight. Now, I'm not sure how it's gonna run being a new intake. Of course, things like the injectors and the throttle body and stuff like that, that's all staying the same. But I'm sure that this thing is gonna ask for a little bit different air, or it's gonna use a little bit different air, even idling, than the tbss does. So I'm curious to see and anxious to see if this thing's gonna fire up without problem or not, or whether we're gonna have to bust out the laptop to even get it to run. But I have faith in the Holley, I have faith in the injectors, I have faith in what I got going on, and I think it'll run. What do you think? The new parts sorted, I've got the fuel rail assembled, I've got a little bit of wiring and fuel line work to do here with the intake that's going on, but we are getting back at it. Hopefully by the end of the night, we'll have some oil pressure and get this thing fired up. But money for working, dude. Stupid. Got my Motion package here. Got some nice fancy billet parts in there. Still no gushers though. Doug, I'm gonna need you to do better. Dum-dums are great, but gushers are legendary. Gonna need some of those. Okay, so now's the time to make your guesses. Is it gonna start? We just finished up. We got the valve springs all put in, the valve covers put back on. I got the fuel rails in, the harness all plugged up. I got the cold side all connected again, just so theoretically we should be ready to rock. So now is your time to decide if this thing is gonna fire up or not. Take your guess, leave a comment below, tell me what you think. But got the fuel rail in there, got their Motion Raceworks, their throttle cable bracket over here, throttle body on, still waiting on my fancy one to come in, but the stock one will do for now. It's really not a non-issue when you have that much air cramming in front of it. It doesn't matter. So, long story short, we are ready for fire up. Do you think it's gonna work? Let me know. Let's give it a try. I knew she'd fire up. So for any of you that didn't think it would crank on the first start, get out of here. You got to know better. Clearly super pumped it fired up on the first try. Couldn't be happier about that. Now it was idling a little high, so I have the idle set somewhere around 800. I'd have to look to see exactly, but somewhere around 800 and some change, and that was trying to idle around 1,000. So I probably have a slight vacuum leak somewhere. I don't remember if I hooked up one of my reference line. I changed so much of that stuff. I'm gonna have to put my hands on everything, make sure that it's all playing nice and happy. But it didn't surge, it fired right up. I gave it a couple of revs, it came right back down. So it seems very happy. Pretty drastic change, changing the entire intake manifold, especially from a stock style long runner to a Hiram style. That's a big change. So for it to fire up right off the rip, although I expected it to, I'm still pumped about it. So that is gonna do it for tonight. I am so stoked about this. Couldn't be happier. It fired up on the first try. I'm gonna spend the rest of the night trying to get this high idle figured out. And assuming that's all good to go, we are going to have some fun with this thing tomorrow. So like I said, follow me on Instagram. It's diggin_Z71, just like it is here. If you do that, you'll have a really good clue about who's here in town with me. Also, if you follow him, I'm not gonna tell you, but if you follow him, there's some clues there too. So the two of us plan on trying to send this thing at the track tomorrow, as long as the weather holds out. But until next time, I'm diggin_Z71. My name is Dylan. Thanks for watching.